Okay, so today in class we had an interesting discussion. This is an innovation class where we're built on a lot of times dialogue and trying to figure out thoughts. So today's topic, obviously and predictably, on school violence. Stay tuned. Okay, so today, like I was saying earlier, we had a small discussion. Number one, their challenge this week was to kind of find mentors, and we're hearing back from some great people because I think that bonds can be made when you start making connections with people and you find some commonality. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm here with Josh Lovett, and ironically enough, you pulled me aside because you were doing some research on something from Richard Thaler. Tell me about something you found here.
All right, so on an article written by David Brooks from the New York Times that's about Richard Thaler, who's a Nobel Peace Prize or Nobel Prize recipient, it has a quote from C.S. Lewis, and it says, "Yet all of these," it says, "the passion for the inner ring is the most skillful in making a man who is not a very bad man to do very bad things."
So what does that mean to you?
So, like, I can explain it more in an analogy, and I think of, like, some fraternities, not all of them, but certain fraternities, like, you have to do something really bad, or maybe, like, to be in a gang, you have to do something really bad
initiation.
to get in. Yeah. And,
so people's desire to be a part of something can drive people to do bad things.
Definitely, that's exactly what it's saying.
Okay, so I guess then, basically, what is the inner ring of school? Like, if what Thaler's saying, and I agree with it, like we've seen it time and time again, to belong to something, if the belonging group is inherently not kind, it'll force people to unknowingly do unkind things, even if they're a good person, right? Is that their explanation? So, when you brought this up to my attention, like, what is then the average inner circle high school look like?
Well, I mean, today it's depressing. I think that a lot of people are they're very cynical, and like their outlook on the world is just like so negative. And I think it's partly due to the media, but it's also just partly due to like the way that we communicate now. And there are people that are happy. There are people, but like they're the outcasts. They're the ones that aren't in the inner circle.
Yeah, well, every time there's something like this happens, some people are like, oh yeah, he was always withdrawn. Everybody saw it coming. Everybody's like, oh yeah, he was the one that always made these threats and said someday you'll be sorry. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, if it was kind of known what was being done about it, and so in your opinion from this writing, I guess it's that what is the culture of the inner circle, and I guess is our schools a reflection of the culture of the United States?
Yeah, definitely, because as you said earlier, like the schools are a microcosm of society, and I don't think that we could just blame the schools for like such a tragedy, but we could blame society because like...
Or you can blame guns.
Or we could blame guns,
right.
But
right.
I mean, you can blame whatever you want.
And I think that like what Josh was bringing up is, in our opinion, a big problem. There is not a dialogue. Josh is wanting to have a dialogue, and we had one this morning in class of what some of the root causes are, and it's not necessarily the weapon or the place or the state, but it's a cultural thing where we're now seeing a lot of students that are isolated. I think depression and anxiety are obviously high. So in your humble opinion, reading this, what would be not the solution, but a solution to some of this?
Well,
how do we make our inner ring nicer?
So like self-awareness, like they always say, is like the first step to change. And like,
but what if you're aware that you're a jerk?
Well, then you need to change after that. Like
okay.
They say that you need to have like self-awareness, then you can bring your vehicle for change through your self-awareness. You need to have an infrastructure through the small things. So as you do the small things, like say hi to someone, open the door for someone, it will be a vehicle for change. But the
societal pressure of that being totally not cool, I hate to say that, but like, can self-awareness and kindness be cool?
They can be. It's just you need to do the little things first to make a big thing happen.
How do you make that grow faster? I mean, I'm sorry to say this. Like, if you could make kindness as popular as the next edition of Yeezys, as the next edition of the Supreme shirt, if you could make it go viral like that, how? Like, can anybody have an answer to that? How can you make kindness cool?
Hello, this is Sarah Schaefer.
Sarah Schaefer at Sarah Schaefer 50. So, I think that one of the big problems is the problem isn't that we need to have someone like Kanye being the one that's making it cool, is because he's the person who's exhibiting and making being mean like cool. So you don't want to take an icon who's already like being progressive in the negativity.
I'd still take Kanye being nice a thing.
Well, I think that it's
Like
good, but-
Drake the other day spent thousands of dollars on for his new video. Like, I don't have a problem with a celebrity all of a sudden, but as long as it's real, as long as it's sustainable.
I don't mean
Okay.
necessarily like picking on Kanye. I just mean like to infiltrate that kind of negativity sphere. It's like throw somebody new into the ring. It's like an icon.
Yeah, well, why aren't you that person thrown into the ring?
Working on it.
Like,
Well,
that's what I'm
it's
saying,
true,
yeah.
but to her credit, like, I hate to say this, yeah, nice girls. No, but and I hate to bring this up because this is kind of a tough platform. When the school shooting happened, I was in an airport because I was leaving that night, and I saw a police officer watching it. And I'm like, can you believe this? And the police officer said, yeah, people are waiting to hear whether the shooter was a Republican or Democrat. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, are we that cynical?
Too interesting.
I know, because like, if it's cool, like, if kindness were exhibited by the wrong political party, I'm afraid that it's dead. Like, half the country's not going to like it if Kanye does it, and half the country wouldn't like it if like Mike Pence does it.
Well, it's not about politics. It's about being a human.
I want to agree to that. But I think so many people are wrapped up in their identity politics that
It's like people like, we need to get back to Mandela and Gandhi and MLK, and like, we can't just have these holidays and not pretend like they're important. Like, we need to actually, like, on MLK Day, like, know why it's so important. It's because he fundamentally stood for like true love and compassion for other people. And when you use him, his quotes and his speeches, it needs to not be taken with a grain of salt. Like, fundamentally as a people, we need to just
or
love each
hijacked
other.
by a political ideology.
Yeah, it's not something for you to just break apart. It's like these great leaders where, like, they have something really important and true to say, and like,
Yeah.
it really.
So Josh brought up, I mean, I like the fact you brought this up. I'll ask you, because this is kind of also your jam too on the mental health side. Can you make kindness cool?
Absolutely. Like the way I've been, like the last couple of days, the way I've been doing it is I reached out to Patrick Barnes. He's a really big YouTuber and was a very famous miner. He got back with me. And
I know, I saw.
And
I love Quincy.
I'm talking to him right now, and we're about to
What?
plan an event with Humane Society.
Get out.
And
Nice.
And that's going to be on my channel, so if you want to check that out. But
Yes.
Hunter Redmond
I'm gonna
vlogs.
plug that real quick. But that's like, so I'm getting a local YouTuber that's big, that a lot of people watch, and doing something positive with them. And if they see him do it, then they're gonna want to do it too.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Like, that's how I'm doing it.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm not being a jerk, but I hope somebody that has something fun and uplifting will start to drown out somebody that is strung out on cough syrup and repeats the same lyric 52 times. All right. That being said, stop it. That being said, Josh, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I like the whole Richard Thaler thing. And the other thing is like, I'm hoping more schools, this is where I get in trouble. I'm hoping we walk out less and have dialogue more. Going outside and shouting is maybe important. I'm not saying it's not, but having these kind of dialogues, I think is of the utmost importance, because I think that when we can acknowledge that there is a cultural difference, and then if we are more active, like when I was walking out to the library, there is a child out there right now who is sitting by himself, and I can tell that no one else is talking to him, and already like my heart hurt, and I'm like, okay, he should be in the innovation class, and we'd give him anyway. I've gone on.
I have one thing to say.
Yeah, go.
Like Sarah said, we do need more MLKs and more Nelson Mandelas, but the problem is we can't talk about having them. We need someone to be them. So like, why aren't you them? Why am I not them?
So the first step is spreading the kindness and being that leader, of like being your own leader, and like exhibiting those traits and those same ideologies.
But it is hard if you're being made fun of.
Just don't care what other people think.
That's hard. It's easier said than done. You know that.
It is.
I mean, that's easier said. So when all of a sudden you want to be, you can wait on that. But all of a sudden when you want to be the positive person, you're like, hey, I want to help people. And you're like, just okay, and all this other stuff. And then you're like, and it demoralizes you. Mm-hmm. It is hard to be the ray of sunshine when everybody else thinks it's cool to be doom and gloom. You were about to say something?
Like she said, I just wrote about, like, this is my paragraph exactly. Like, everyone, we were born to seek acceptance. We were born with insecurities and uncertainties and things. Like, that's how humans are. But, like, someone has to
Somebody's
be able
got
to
it.
overcome that. And, like, you can do it, I can do it. It's just, like, a mindset.
Last story, I interviewed a guy named Jeff Hoffman. Now, my shameless plug, episode 2, this guy had helped start Priceline.com. All of a sudden, at a young age, he had a lot of money, and all of a sudden, people didn't like him. He's like, they're all jealous. Anyway, this guy is cursed with a lot of money. He's watching TV, and in Baltimore, they had this news report on these ladies that were going to get kicked out because their women's shelter, this battered women's shelter, had ran out of money. And he watched it, and he's like, man, they should do something about that. Then he realized there is no they. If you want to see kindness in the world, it starts with you. He's like, if I want to see this women's shelter exist, guess what? I have now all of a sudden been bestowed upon with millions of dollars. He wrote a check that day. Instead of saying they should, he did. And with that, we've gone. Anyway, you can follow her at Sarah Schaefer 50. I am Hunter Redman and Joshua _ Lovett?
No, Joshua M. Lovett.
Joshua M. Lovett on Twitter. Thank you. The rest of the people are just back there like collaborating with people and whatnot, but we'll have some updates for you soon. Have some conversations with your kids, for crying out loud. See you guys soon.